Welcome to our panel dedicated to the Bucharest Summit. As you know, Romania is the first state to host the Traian Summit for the second time. And this all in a new context, meaning we have fully operational Traian investment fund and also on the background of Russia aggression against Ukraine. So that being said, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Hristea, State Secretary, Romania MFA, to present us what are to expect in Bucharest this autumn. Your Excellency.
Mr. Sebe, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I would really like to thank the organizers for offering me this opportunity to address such a distinguished audience, with the focus on the upcoming Bucharest summit. Of course, as you said, Mr. Sebe, we are the second country to host it, the first country to host it for the second time. And we are actually very much honored to do so. We previously hosted the summit of the Three Seas Initiative, as well as the Economic Forum of the Three Seas Initiative in September 2018. And this year we will plan to organize the summit on September 6th, followed by the Economic Forum on September 7th, somehow business forum of the initiative back-to-back with the summit in the same period. Before touching upon the priorities or what we plan to do in Bucharest, I would really like to make a small recourse to the evolution of the statements of the three summits in Dubrovnik, Warsaw, and following capitals. The declarations were kind of sequencing in a logical way that paved the way for what we prepare now in Bucharest. And I could devise different stages of the evolution of those statements. The first one, the first initial phase, which I mentioned a little bit earlier briefly, was about Dubrovnik, Warsaw, and Bucharest. And within this phase, or in this period of time, the focus was on identifying the key priorities, on identifying the main areas of cooperation, and refining further the objectives and the functional principles. And as a result of this several years evolution, the three areas have been identified, namely the transport, the energy, and the digital, with a special emphasis of interconnectivity projects on the north-south axis of this initiative, particularly Central and Eastern Europe. In 2017, the summit declaration went further and outlined some principles which were meant to further refine the better functioning of the initiative. And those principles were referring to the membership of the European Union, the long-term nature of the plans, the openness for the business environment, and promoting drivers for the modernization in the region. In Bucharest in 2018, actually particular attention was somehow agreed at the level of all the countries in stating some objectives of the Three Seas Initiative, and mainly those initiatives were actually to boost the economic development, to strengthen the cohesion among the 12 countries within the European Union, and of course, with no surprise, to enrich the transatlantic relation. This initial phase actually was somehow continued with the establishment with the investment fund, which was decided in Bucharest in 2018, along with some kind of a priority list of projects that were agreed or convened upon during the business forum, and of course doubled by the initiative to bring together in a kind of a network the chambers of commerce of the participating states. Subsequently, in all the other declarations that followed in the three next summits in Ljubljana, Tallinn, and Sofia, all the participants pledged to continue to boost the initiative capacity without and doing this boost of the capacity without reducing its flexibility in terms of having a better political, to play as a kind of a role of a political platform for the better coordination. Emphasis on that second phase was put on the implementation of the agreed projects or concrete actions that will bring in concrete deliverables that could be tangible or seen by all the constituencies, the citizens of the 12 member states of the initiative. There were some notable projects in establishing some kind of a strategic projects or promoting those strategic projects, visual identity, operationalization of different instruments, including of the investment fund followed. The third phase started in Riga in 2002. And this third phase was characterized by the urgency that was indicated to all the 12 member states by the different geopolitical environment that this summit was organized in. And definitely the necessity to try to address this kind of challenges that are stemming out from the illegal and illegitimate war that Russian Federation waged against Ukraine. And actually the necessity to adapt and to increase the resilience in face of this geopolitical challenge, particularly on what was established to be from the very incipient idea from the north-south axis. And basically to enhance the resilience in terms of transport, in terms of energy and digitalization, to make sure that all those countries will actually increase and will boost the capacity to react, to increase to boost its own resilience on the eastern flank of NATO, to tell it bluntly. Definitely on this occasion, the so-called strategic partners were more and more included within this whole discussions that happened on that occasion, and they were named in the summit declaration in 2002, where for the first time United States, European Commission, and Germany were declared as strategic partners, and the door was open for countries on the immediate eastern neighborhood of the initiative to become participating partners, namely, Ukraine on that occasion. This declaration also underlined, and I think the relevance of this underlined principle remains still valid today, the importance of the synergy with the European Union instruments in the area, particularly the global gateway, but also the other synergic implemented European Union instruments in terms of avoiding overlapping, but building synergies and complementarity with the financial instruments that are dedicated to implement the main strategic documents of development of the European Union. So I wanted to do this brief overview in order to underscore a little bit the fact that this initiative developed not in a vacuum. And the progress within this initiative was not something like, sinus and cosinus graph, if you want, but it was a constant development, an organic growth. And that, I guess, was the competitive advantage of this regional platform, because it brought in 3 sectoral areas that actually show the determination of all the 12 participating EU member states to contribute jointly to this idea of mitigating the development gaps between themselves and the rest of the European Union, while really building upon the actions that are meant to alleviate or to contribute to diminish the vulnerabilities that we have in our countries, and also to strengthen the resilience of this initiative. And for us, for Romanians, when we promote this idea of resilience, is nothing new, and it's dear music to our ears, because it shows that somehow in our programmatic planning, we provide constant approach to implementing this concept in our level. So hosting the summit for the second time gives us the opportunity now to contribute to the consolidation of the instruments that are, or the toolbox at our hand within this initiative, and to try to, if not necessarily redesign, but to bring our own contribution and our, I would say, added value to a geopolitically reconfigured neighborhood that is happening now as we speak even here. So to reach a new stage in this initiative's evolution at the Bucharest Summit, we will focus on concrete deliverables. First and foremost, that would include the endorsing of a renewed list of major interconnection programs and projects. And the major aim will be to gather the political support for the feasible projects that could be financed, for instance, by the 3Cs Initiative Fund. So in other words, why not to think at this political platform of the 3Cs Initiative as a kind of a platform of endorsement of those concrete, bankable and feasible projects that are to be financed by the instruments that we have, and to make sure that those projects are actually contributing to the entire region for the development and security. And therefore, that if we take into account the current geoeconomic and geopolitical realities, the reinforcing of the critical infrastructure on the north-south axis in Central and Eastern Europe, it's actually a precondition to unlock all the economic potential of the region on one hand, and let's be honest, also to unlock the possibility to ensure the military mobility on the north-south axis of the eastern flank of NATO. From its inception, one of the initiative goals was to identify all possible EU funds or other funds to contribute to the implementation of those projects. So the creation of the 3Cs Initiative Fund represented this instrument, a kind of an innovative solution that was aimed actually to attract and to offer an example and a platform to attract other type of investments, be it European or from outside the European Union. So we would like to explore on the occasion of the Bucharest Summit the possibility to draw the lessons of the success of the projects or the success of the investment fund that has been actually instrumentalized so far, and to look by drawing the lessons learned into the possibilities to establish a second fund that will contribute to finance the existing pipelines of the projects. And this is a very pragmatic step, and I will explain you why. Because the fund that has been established so far, it's almost finished in the way that, in terms of resources. So in order to contribute to other projects, we need to gather, to collect, and to put together additional financial resources. On top of what we have at the European level, I think that the lessons learned since 2018 until now prove the efficiency, the success, and the, I would say, actual character of this investment vehicle. And we really need to think of a second vehicle that incorporates all those lessons learned, that it's greener, that it is adapted to the present realities, and why not to think to establish this second investment, 3Cs investment fund. Then we were thinking also to contemplate on analyzing the idea to materialize what has been agreed in Sofia, namely in the Sofia summit, namely to operationalize the innovation fund. If we look to the analysis of the projects that have been financed so far, we would see that the digital area was one of the least financed. And we think that with this innovation fund, we can complement, additionally contribute to the possibilities to have better or more digitalization projects that could be cross-country and to stimulate those countries to participate in cross-country projects, particularly the countries that have not benefited so far from the funds that were collected in the first 3Cs investment fund. And furthermore, we would like to continue as we started in Riga, to explore and identify ways to engage neighboring states in projects under the aegis of this initiative. The first step was done in Riga with Ukraine. We also would strongly encourage granting the Republic of Moldova the same status within the initiative. We are also looking very much to discuss the possibility for other countries from the Western Balkans or Georgia. We are hosting the summit, so we will try to be an honest broker in managing all the requests from the member states and to look into that matter. Definitely, we will do that by aiming to enhance the transatlantic partnership that we have with the United States, and to build this platform as a kind of within that platform a kind of a complementary instrument to the European Union global gateway. In a way, to summarize, what I would like to say is that our intention in Bucharest is to, in a way, not necessarily to go back, but actually to underline the fundamental principles of this initiative since the moment it was created, again, and I will try to repeat, to mitigate the development gaps within the European Union, to enhance the North-South axis in these three areas, specific areas of interconnectivity, and of course to increase the mobility, military mobility, in combining this with the ability to effectively deliver upon these objectives by implementation of efficient tools. Of course, that will require a lot of discussions, a lot of negotiations, a lot of meetings that we would like to offer Bucharest as a platform for that. I am confident that we will manage to do it, because these challenging times are requiring from all of us cohesion, resilience in economic development in the 3Cs initiative, but also in the neighboring countries that we want now to bring closer to the initiative. And to have this initiative to serve more as a platform of regional cooperation, and to enhance this kind of regional ownership that we claim and we proclaim in each meeting we have among different stakeholders. Definitely, we would not forget of making use of that platform, of this platform, to attract our the support of our strategic partners, namely the European Union, the United States, and like-minded countries, and to build or to put in the declaration the basis to have a kind of a future-oriented approach, because those challenges are not going to end with the summit in Bucharest. They will continue for a quite longer period. So this is why we would try in Bucharest to find concrete ways to develop our economies, to consolidate the transatlantic bond, and to strengthen our cohesion within the European Union by benefiting of the policies, of the strategic documents, but also benefiting from the financial instruments that do exist within the European Union, while enhancing our own instruments that we have at tool. So I don't want to sound a little bit propagandistic, but sometimes in communication terms you need also kind of a logo or whatever. We thought that what characterizes best the countries within the 12 countries within this initiative is the statement that together we are stronger. And definitely we should work together for this kind of achievements of the concrete deliverables that we put ahead of us at the summit and at the business forum. So I will stop here with the main statement. As you can see, is nothing surprising and not that much, I would say, exquisite. But I think that there is a moment when you need to reflect and to consolidate what we have and to also plan for enhancing those bases to build together, all 12 of us, our future options. And I will be very much standing ready to engage in a dialogue and answer your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. As we know, the 3SI is a presidential summit, and from that perspective, I would like to invite Mr. Paweł Soloch, Social Advisor to the President of the Republic of Poland, to share Poland's view on the summit and what's our steps ahead. Your Excellency.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I am a little in the difficult situation because you said before, Mr. Minister, almost all what I want to say. Yeah. But you know the danger. It could be that it start to be boring if we agree with everything. No, but generally, seriously, I agree with. Your statement. I want to say one thing more. In the same times today, when we are here, they are another in the context of the 3C initiative meeting in Lublin, local authorities platform, 3C initiative. Our president is there. And in his statement, he talked about the well-being, about the economic prosperity, but also in the context of the security. I think you are the host, but I think we have to think and we have to work in the context of the future declaration about the question of the security to find a good balance for 12 countries to underline this problems. You talked about the eastern flank, and obviously they are some kind of a similarity which we could use for our final declaration between EU and NATO relation, and between in our regional context between 3C initiative and B9, which is there are some kind of similarity. Finally, there are 11 countries which are the NATO members. One is European Union member. So we have the good the point, the reference to try to put this question in perhaps in final declaration. Obviously, in this context, you mentioned. Military mobility in the context of the PESCO. It's also the way which could be useful for us for our transport way projects for transport, but also for energy. Another question: resilience. It's still in the context this free topic goals: transport, energy, digital, which we could also use in our in final presidential declaration. In this context, the question of institutionalization. Obviously, presidential 3C initiative presidential summit, it's enough like the institution which cover all the question with the policy, with the strategy for the region. But in the context of the concrete project, like this 3C business forum, like the 3C Initiative Investment Fund, we need some structures. Is quite natural, but I think it's rather this direction to not to try to discuss about. I think nobody thinks about it, but not to try to discuss about the bureaucracy at the strategic level. The question of the partnership with United States, very important, especially in the context now, in the context of the war in the Ukraine. And I think we could find the reference in the context of the NATO, so US are very important. Also, another countries which could participate in which are now even interested in the investment in our region. I think especially about the Japan, about South Korea. So we have to, but in the same time we have to underline the still I think our complementarity with the EU project. So either we could inspire also European Union with our common projects, like the part of the whole strategic European policy in this context. The question relation with the, first of all, with the Ukraine, also with Moldova, with Georgia. Ukraine is till the Riga summit participating partner. We told just before our panel about the interconnectivity the project. We have to find the formula for the project for Ukraine first of all, but also for Moldova, for Georgia. But rather the perspective is interconnectivity, because first of all we have to find the common point inside our 12 country, because I think this initiative it is the value first of all for the economic development in these three fields which were mentioned. But also, this is the finally, at the end of the day, it is the political project too. Even if we don't mention this every time, this is the political project. So that's all at this moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. When we speak about the 3 Cs, the Riga summit is the most recent one and is perceived as a success. And from the point of view of the last year declaration, we'd be interested to hear from Mr. Juris Poikāns, Ambassador of Latvia to the Republic of Poland. What about the roadmap to the Riga declaration, and what are your expectations for the next declaration? How have you assured the continuity with the Sofia summit, and what are the lines of the future that should be developed starting from last year's summit? Your Excellency.
Thank you. One problem which was already mentioned by Paweł is when like-minded countries come together, it's always extremely difficult to disagree. So it's only about how to bring some new elements, let's say, to our discussion. Let me start a bit with, I would call, Latvian Baltic interests within 3 Cs. For us, it's a very interesting initiative, because we are still partly isolated from the rest of the European Union. For example, we don't have a modern railway connection between the Baltic states and Poland and Central Europe and Germany. The second is our energy system is still linked with the energy system of Russia and Belarus. So there is partial isolation. Yes, we have very good plans, but we really see necessity to develop now north-south axis, because usually it has been from east to west or west to east, not so much from north to south. So this is really essential for us. And let's say if we complete Rail Baltica to Warsaw, so then we get also connection with Prague, we get to Budapest, Bucharest. So this is really something that is important for military mobility, but for economic projects. So here we have full support. The second, as Paweł already mentioned, we never speak about it, but it's obviously partly a political format. And there is some interconnection with Bucharest 9, because more or less the same countries are participating in both initiatives. So, and this is something where we work together. And for Latvia as a small country, which doesn't have, for example, embassies in Romania and Bulgaria, sorry for that, 3Cs and Bucharest 9 in a way helps also to develop ties with these countries. So there is definitely some political dimensions there. The third is, it was already mentioned, its relations with third countries. And this was something we are really happy that we were able to elevate the status of Ukraine in 3C initiative. We definitely should continue with the Republic of Moldova, what Traian mentioned here, and we should continue also with the countries of Western Balkans. You know, one thing which is, from my point of view, important for the attractiveness of the 3Cs. If it wouldn't be attractive, you know, there wouldn't be any countries which would like to join. So we have Greece, we have Montenegro, we have Northern Macedonia, and I don't see any problem. It's a question about how we identify their status at the end, but to have them as a part of 3C's initiative, I think it would just make sense, because we know that the future of Moldova, Ukraine, the countries of Western Balkans will be within the European Union. So they will be part of this natural north-south axis. And obviously, for a country which is very strongly supporting transatlantic partnership, relations with the United States are very important. Which shows the US interest in the region, and it's very important national security initiative. So Traian, I think, explained here in details. Every summit is bringing something new. So we have summits, we have additional events. So we have Business Forum as a permanent institution. We have Civil Society Forum, and also an event which was developed during Riga Summit. So there is an interest of gathering together, and I think it's important that the summit is held once in the northern part of Europe, another time in the southern part of Europe. So it's not only about Poland and the Baltic states, but also about others. So this is very important. We have concrete projects. We have made investments in 5 projects, because at the end of the day, the 3Cs initiative will be successful or unsuccessful when it comes to the implementation of concrete things. So we have 5 projects, and I think it's also a good sign. We finally have some US commitment. I'm saying some US commitment because there is no practical money still there, but what we got during Riga Summit, it's some pledge of $300 million. And obviously, it's very important. It's not just a question about money, but it's a question also about political commitment. So if Americans deliver, so we will see their interest. And what we registered also during Riga Summit, I think what was also already mentioned also by Paweł, there are third countries. So it's Japan, which participated, it's the United Kingdom, it's South Korea. And I think it's very important to engage with them to show the importance of this north-south development as an additional element for the European Union, for this part of Europe. When it comes to the problems, what we see in Riga, I think as the first issue, it's always, you get the question, does this region really have a common identity? Because you always have discussions. What do you have in common, for example, between Estonia and Bulgaria? So this is something where we definitely should work on, and 3C's initiative and B9 are exactly those formats where we should work together. I think it's not positive that 3 countries of the 3Cs initiative have not made any financial contributions to the fund. It's not a question about how much to contribute, but it's a question about political commitment. So if we take these 3 countries out, so there is actually no north-south axis anymore. So we definitely should work with these 3 countries to convince them also to be a part, not only of political format, but also to contribute financially. It's very important, obviously, to work with any US administration, because it's not a big secret that 3C's initiative was developed during one administration, so you have another administration, and sometimes I get the feeling, I believe not the only one, that it depends from administration to administration. So we need permanent US presence politically, economically, financially, so that we feel that it's also in the interest of the United States. And I think it's also very important actually to stress, because you hear some concerns within the European Union, among our Western European friends, that this is some kind of unique format which is directed against someone. I think we should send a very powerful signal that this is about very legitimate interest to develop North-South relations, and we are lagging behind, obviously, in terms of infrastructure with our Western European friends, and there are many things that we could do together between North and South. So this initiative is complementary to the development of the European Union, and at the same time it will strengthen the European Union itself. So these would be my initial remarks on that.
Thank you very much. As you correctly mentioned, 3SI, it's about pragmatism, about the need to cooperate. And for that, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Paweł Gębski, Director within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Poland. How can we improve the cooperation?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to organizers for invitation. I think it's a great pleasure to be here. It's a very important conference. In general, this week we have even a kind of inflation of 3Cs events, at least here in Poland and in Europe. This conference was the Lublin conference was mentioned by Mr. Soloch, and there is also an event organized by our embassy in Bucharest. Actually, this and something is going on in Dublin. So many things were said already, so it's of course difficult to add something new. Maybe I'll refer to some previous statements. Minister Hristea reminded us the evolution process of the 3Cs in an excellent way. Indeed, every as Mr. Ambassador also said, every summit brought something new to the initiative. But anyway, I believe that the first Bucharest summit was really a kind of a milestone. You introduced so many important elements. It kind of shaped the current form of the 3Cs initiative. It brought for the first time the business forum was organized. You brought the idea of priority projects, making a list of priority projects. The letter of intent on the 3Cs investment fund was signed. You invited the European Union representatives and representatives of Germany. So many important things. So you set the bar very high, and now the expectations on the Bucharest second Bucharest summit are, of course, very high. But from what you just described, the goals, what are your plans for the summit? I'm quite confident that this second Bucharest summit will be at least at the same level or even better. Mr. Moderator asked a question about the expectation, the ways, new ways of cooperation. Let me focus on some challenges maybe that we have as the 3Cs initiative. I'm not sure if we will be able to solve them all before the Bucharest summit, probably, but at least we can start some discussions. I believe one of the challenges is, at least how we see it in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, is the kind of a lack of continuity in the functioning of the 3Cs initiative. Right now we are functioning from one summit to another summit, and there is this gap, like this year. So the Riga summit was in June 2022. Now we are waiting for the summit only in September. So we should think how we can fill those gaps. Of course, this week, as I said, there are many events, 3Cs events, but it's not always like that, right? So I would probably expect to have more continuity in functioning of the initiative. So one solution could be to have a permanent secretariat. right? Because it will fill in this space between the summit. But if there is no consensus on that, maybe one of the solutions is to have a kind of a, I would say, a real presidency. So the presidency like we have in V4 or G20, the presidency that starts in one point, I don't know, January 1st, and lasts for 1 year, for example, and has some kind of agenda, right? The agenda that includes not only the summit and the business forum, but also some other events. But maybe some modification could be that to maybe to limit the burden on one country, on the presidency country. This agenda could include also events organized by other countries. As you know, Poland and Polish institutions, not only government institutions, but local governments, NGOs like here, like the event today, are organizing quite a lot of events, and those events can also be included in the agenda, just coordinated with the presidency. Another challenge we've been talking about that the 3Cs was originally a presidential format and still is a presidential format, but it was also agreed to increase the role of the governments in the initiative. And unfortunately, I think that we are not using this format because we have. In all countries, we have government representatives, 3Cs, government national coordinators, as they are called. But this format of national coordinators, or in general, the format of government representatives, ministries, deputy ministers, is not utilized properly, I believe. And because the 3Cs initiative is about creating new infrastructure in general terms, it would be important to have more discussions on the government level and also these interactions between the government and the business. This also refers to the business forums, right? In current format, it's usually not enough time. Well, during one day, it's difficult to have all the discussions that we need. I think that because usually we have one session on transport, one session on energy, and one session on digital. I believe that there are enough interesting topics to have at least 3 or 4 panels for each of those pillars. Some of the speakers mentioned the need for a kind of platform for further. I think Mr. Hristea for further discussions on the 3Cs kind of consultation platform. I think I believe this also relates to the needs of the increasing the level of discussion between the government representatives on different level, on the all line ministries responsible for transport, for energy, and digital could meet and discuss all the important issues. What else? Maybe ways of enhancing cooperation with Ukraine, right? This is a very important topic. As it was said, Ukraine was granted status of participating partner last year, and now we should, of course, think how we can make it operational. This cooperation with Ukraine. But the most important thing is to answer this question. We have to think what the 3Cs initiative really is, right? To have certain expectations toward the 3Cs initiative. So I believe in the 3Cs initiative, the financing it's not a financing institution, right? We have, of course, the 3Cs investment fund, but even if it will be very successful and collects all the money that was expected, like at the level of $5 billion US, it's not. It's very little comparing to the overall needs as far as the infrastructural investments in our region are concerned. So, so the 3Cs initiative is not a financial institution that could provide financial resources to Ukraine. This is not an institution that will actually implement the infrastructural projects. This is a platform of countries that recognize the fact that working together, as was already said today many times, we can strengthen, we can utilize our potential, we can unlock our potential in various ways. So in transport, by building new connections, highway connections, road connections between our countries. In energy sector, by diversifying, first of all, the sources of energy supplies to our region, and of course in digital, to be prepared for the future development, because we all know that how digital technologies are important and how important they will be in the future. So, understanding that, of course, and we are quite successful in some areas. We are more successful in some areas. We are a bit less successful. So for example, in the energy sector, I believe it should be stressed here that this is a big success of the 3Cs initiative. What we achieved recently by implementing those investment projects, like in case of Poland, the Baltic Pipe, like interconnectors with Lithuania and Slovakia, like enhancing, it's still ongoing project, enhancing the capacity of the LNG terminal. It is a big success. It is not that the 3Cs initiative actually built those projects, but all those projects were fully in line with the spirit of the 3Cs cooperation, and this is important. And what we can do for Ukraine is to engage with our Ukrainian friends and partners in some new investment projects. For example, in case of Poland, there are already ongoing discussions with our Ukrainian friends. For example, to develop our new electricity connections. There is one, the Chmielnicki-Rzeszów, that is already there. There are discussions on the gas interconnector with Ukraine. There are discussions to create a railway connection on the European gauge to Lviv. There are also discussions to have new connections. I mean, to enhance the Via Carpatia route to Ukraine. So that's what we can do for our Ukrainian partners. And maybe last point. What is very important for us in the ministry, I represent the Department of Economic Cooperation. So what we do in general is to try to support Polish business in their cooperation with foreign partners. And in the 3Cs context, what I believe we should do is also to facilitate cooperation at the business level. We are pretty convinced that companies, there are many very successful companies in our region. Some of them possess really top-of-the-art, technological solutions, and they could be very successful all around the world. But at the moment, some of them are still too small, maybe too weak to compete with, international tech giants. So one of the ways to unlock their potential is to work together, to have a, I don't know, consortia, to exchange information, to work together, and to be stronger and to be more successful in this competition with larger players. So we see at least two areas that this kind of cooperation could take place. One is digital area in general, but the cybersecurity in particular. At least in case of Poland, we have many successful and well-developed companies that provide cybersecurity technologies, and we believe in other countries in our region there are also companies that can deliver, and together we can. So it would be very important because there are so many needs as far as technology, cybersecurity technology is concerned, not to get those technologies from our region and not buy them necessarily from outside, right? If we have them here, why not use them and not buy from outside? Another area is the hydrogen technologies. We are already lagging behind, unfortunately, but again, by working together, I believe also, as in the case of digital technologies, I believe there are many companies in our region that have some technological solution as far as the hydrogen economy is concerned. Why not work together and be able to compete with larger partners from Western Europe, from US and Japan and other regions of the world. So we are very happy that our Romanian friends, they recognize the importance of cybersecurity. I believe that next week there will be an official opening of the Cybersecurity Center of Excellence, right? In Bucharest. It happened already. Okay. Because I thought it's May 22nd. Okay. And also, as far as that hydrogen technologies are concerned, we also suggested to have a kind of a side event on the hydrogen during business forum, and there is actually also a positive signal from our German friends. They'll be also interested in this case. Sorry, maybe I took too much time, but that's what I wanted to say in my initial contribution. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gębski, for reminding yourself about the importance of institutionalization. Given the fact that you have raised so many challenges that in fact may prove opportunities, I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Hristea to address some of them. Your Excellency.
On institutionalization, permanent secretariat, permanent presidency with the agenda, I think that this issue has been many times discussed, in Sofia last time a lot. So definitely the discussion will continue, and I guess that what we have to do, it will have to try to build a consensus to reach to a decision. My plea would be to be pragmatic, because after all, September is tomorrow, and definitely we should focus in these terms, and we are intending as a host of this summit to focus on what can bring the consensus as an honest broker. Not to dismiss the others, of course, but we have to be pragmatic and to have additional deliverables. I'm very grateful to your kind words about the success of 2018, which really set the bar high. And you also mentioned some challenges, and what I wanted to say is maybe that I did not present some in my intervention, which shows that another challenge is a kind of a better communication, right, and presentation to the others. I mean, there is a huge area of joint meetings already that we have. It shows that we really have to coordinate better our calendars. Whether we speak about Dublin, we speak about presentations that have been made, I remember in Japan, South Korea, some Gulf countries, definitely the meeting in Slovenia. So there is already a lot of things that we are doing, sometimes jointly together, but I guess we need to communicate better about what we do. I definitely agree on the ministerial use that you mentioned. Maybe intuitively somehow we already tried to put it. You mentioned 22nd of May. It's not about the Resilience Center, it's about what we already organize. It's the Ministerial Conference for the Digital Pillar. So that would be an example what we thought to use better the ministerial pillar. In that meeting in Bucharest, all the representatives of the digitalization ministries or agencies of the initiatives will gather, and we bring an additional innovation, because in that meeting we do not focus on what is common challenge or what are the potential for things to evaluate after that. But we also would bring in a panel of the parliamentarians for that meeting. We'll bring in the civil society organizations to be invited. So mainly not to have a kind of a silo discussion on the specific area, governmental only, but to bring around the table those who are agreeing, criticizing, putting question, having legal initiatives in the parliaments, to see on how we can actually work better together and what to be done in a pragmatic way and a programmatic way to push forward this pillar. So although it is a ministerial conference, there will be panels for the parliamentarians and the civil society to discuss. And we try to do that, and we will try to do after the end of this month. We will have a governmental rotation, so we will have to wait for the other ministers for energy and transport to see who is going to take the lead in our institution later on, but we plan to do that for the other two pillars as well. So definitely that is one of the intentions. We want to not necessarily to declare that much about it, but to be pragmatic and to work, and then to have the results feeding in the summit, and particularly at the business forum, yes, where we will have to, you know, capitalize on what was discussed on this kind of events. Definitely the business level, we of course we need to put together the business. Actually, what would be one of the ideas that we try to put, and I'm very happy to see that the first reaction from the draft 0 of the declaration did not contest it, is actually to act all those 12 countries in terms of being Team Europe for this part of the world, particularly for the connectivity projects with the eastern neighbors of the Western Balkan neighbors. And that would be a concrete contribution and a concrete, I would say, approach in trying to bring those countries closer to the initiative and clarify better what that means, this status. Most probably we'll start working at the concrete project level, and the discussions will further refine what this concept would mean. Definitely what I would like to say is that we will try to be, like in 2018, as innovative as we were in 2023, to be as innovative as we were in 2018 in terms of inviting the participation. We already sent invitation to the G7 presidency, so Japan is being invited there, OECD, because we all share the same values of doing business. And of course, we also invited the business forum, those who would be willing to contribute additionally to the fund, to bring in additional capital to capitalize more. But that is one of the part of the discussion on the second instrument. So we'll have to see the terms of reference and to agree among the 12, or ideally among the 12, or among those who would like to participate for the second instrument in that respect. So definitely what I would like to see is that we also plan for the national coordinators meeting, but we thought to do it after we do the sectoral meetings, because that will feed in at the national coordinators. So definitely that would be another step that we plan to do before the summit. So as you can see, the agenda is actually quite tight. Even if it is not that visible that we do something in between the summits, it's actually quite tight. And with the challenges that we have among us, I have to be realistic and say that the first is to respond to the challenges that we have. So definitely this kind of internal kitchen of coordination will follow at the national coordinators level, at the Sherpa meeting levels, or among the ministries of foreign affairs. Direct coordination, but this is what you see is not the peak of the iceberg. It's what it is under the surface of the water, and I can assure you that's the big volume of work with a lot of time-consuming things. So, what draws me now is again the conclusion that actually we need to communicate better. And to communicate better, not only the presidency, but to communicate better, or the country that holds the summit, not to speak about the presidency, but to say the country that holds the summit, but to have a better communication us as an entity, as an initiative. And most probably the ideas that were put forward by our partners in terms of joint activities that are already ongoing, they should be better marketed, I would say, better presented, and maybe it's a kind of a common lines to take to be shared among the 12 countries to be used in the engaging with the third partners would be one of the future, I would say, avenues to go. I can tell you that my president took it very much seriously, so we put high on this bilateral discussion the idea of the 3Cs initiative and political aspects, but also economic, transport, energy, digital aspects were put quite high on the agenda on his recent tours that he had both in Asia, in Gulf countries, and also in Latin America. So definitely we had some very positive reactions on that, so we just have to work onwards to try to materialize this kind of commitments further. So that was what I wanted to add. So if there are other questions, I will be looking very much forward to engage in questions.
Thank you very much. Now, using the small privilege of moderator, I want to remind the fact that one of the main factors of regional cooperation is common identity. The 3SI has this common identity as we have a common past and present and also future. And in that sense of common identity in how 3CSI can help consolidate the European Union, how do you see the need to consolidate the engagement with the EU institutions further and also with other countries in the EU like have been discussed in the working groups in this conference, such as Germany, France or Greece, for instance? Well, how can 3SI bring more to the EU and how can it develop further its relationship with the strategic partners inside the EU before joining us? So, no. If someone wants to take the floor, okay. It's a general question. Yeah.
Can I take it again first? Consolidating within the EU, it's one of the main priorities that it is put forward by the. So it is, working synergical and consolidated the implementation of the strategies and using better the instruments of the European Union. That was the first priority. Then transatlantic, and of course, what followed. Definitely, it's a pragmatical question. All 12 countries are members of the European Union, so they have legal and commitments and also operational commitments in the implementation of the directives, of the regulations, of the other acts of the acquis. Of course, it's a matter of discussion on the speed and of the quality. There are infringement procedures. Sometimes we like it, sometimes we don't. But the main direction is there. What we really have to do is just to make sure that while using these instruments in implementing the European Union policies, we also put forward our competitive advantages that we have in our endeavor to mitigate the development gaps. And that goes actually in our bilateral discussions and consultations that we have among ourselves 12, but also in our dialogue and day-to-day dialogue on with the authorities in Brussels, whether we speak about the political platforms or whether we speak about the sectoral councils. So definitely this is a kind of natural interest that those countries want to put it forward. You mentioned Greece. We have a request from Greece. Of course, the Sherpa will discuss the ideas of granting Greece this status of membership. We would be looking very much forward to the discussions. We will be very much interested to have a positive outcome of this discussion as a honest broker that we pretended we would like to be. In terms of engagement with Germany, we as a strategic partner, we see this renewed interest from our German partners and friends. I do believe that you mentioned the needs of the connectivities from the Baltic states. I guess that there are other areas whereby each and every members of the initiative have a kind of a concrete interest. It has to be presented and it has to be used in terms of positive engagement with these strategic partners. But I guess that this strategic partner character will be kept at this stage so far I never heard about Germany wanted to become a member. I mean, this is a kind of, you don't have to force the others to do something that they do not want to. So definitely, I guess, for us, this strategic partnership character and the financial involvement of Germany will be all the more beneficial for the future of initiatives that are being presented in terms of projects. And I guess it has to be, in a way, saluted, because so far, as Juris mentioned, the initiative, where the focus was from east to west. Now, to have a country like Germany very much interested in this north-south corridor, it can only help to the implementation of what we have in terms of objectives. Like-minded partners, Japan, South Korea, all the others. Of course, we see that there is a kind of interest increasing. Those countries are looking, I guess, to the geopolitical relevance of this region, particularly in these difficult circumstances that we live now. And definitely you have countries from this initiative that they have a very specific partnerships with those countries. They are like-minded countries, and they have an investment interest in each and every member countries of the initiative. So this kind of a positive capital has to be, put at work. And the more we are convincing in presenting our competitive advantage in terms of business environment, in terms of potential of growth, and in terms of potential return on investment for their own investors, I guess they will make their own decisions to get and to get much more involvement in our areas. From our side, I guess there is an openness, and I sense that there is a kind of a consensus in trying to attract more like-minded partners that were mentioned. They were somehow more into the waiting mood so far, and I guess it was natural to be like that. It's up to us to present our own competitive advantage and to be convincing in order to attract them here. But what I would like also to underline is that it is also in their own interest, in terms of their own diversification of policies and investment policies, to go somewhere where they are welcomed and they can contribute to this materialization of the partnership, or sometimes strategic partnerships that some member states from the initiative built with those countries. So definitely like-mindedness helps and brings additional, I would say, avenues, concrete avenues for those three areas that are highly on their own interest: transport, energy, and digital. So this is what I wanted to answer my answer. So I give the floor to the other colleagues.
Maybe add I absolutely agree what Traian is saying. I think it's the countries of Three Seas Initiative, and we all know, are relatively economically poorer than the rest of the European Union. And I think it should be a joint interest of the European Union that we are catching up. So more cohesion we have, the European Union will function better. Exactly. And as I mentioned also in my initial statement, the Three Seas Initiative is not directed against anyone. It's really about our common identity. It's about creating stronger economic links, which will open up new economic opportunities for the whole European Union. As Traian was saying, it might be interesting for third states. So it's about strengthening the European Union at the end of the day. And as Traian rightly mentioned, Germany is not seeking membership in Three Seas Initiative, and France probably as well. But at the same time, it doesn't mean they cannot invest in, let's say, in these projects, which will strengthen at the end of the day the European Union. So I see these absolutely as two complementary processes.
Thank you very much. Any other comment? Soloch?
I think what is one remark, consolidation with EU, and obviously we talked about the investment. But what you said, our potential, first of all, demographic, but in the future also economic. I think it's enough important even nowadays that we they are the two-way, two streets. One is obviously we are in the context of the European policy. We have the European EU commitments, but in the same times we could also make influence in the context of these commitments for whole Europe. I want to compare with because of the war, obviously, the role of B9 group. What is important in the context of the NATO, in the context with the relationship with US, but also what is influence of B9 in the concept of the general transatlantic bonds between Europe, whole Europe, and the United States. So I think the same we could do in the context of the Treaty initiative. In the context of the Europe, to have the influence, or not only take the money, openly said, but have influence for the direction of the European policy, but also have influence in the context of the relation between the US and the European Union.
Just maybe a brief comment because I fully agree with previous speakers said. What Mr. Ambassador said, how the 3Cs can contribute to the prosperity of the whole European Union. This is about it. We are, of course, trying to unlock the potential of our countries, of our region. But at the end of the day, by mitigating this development gap, we are contributing to the prosperity and give benefits to the whole European Union. And of course, in this global competition, we all it's so important that the European Union is stronger in vice versa, China or other countries, technologically, economically. So that's about it. We are, of course, focusing on development of our countries, of our region, but at the end of the day, we contribute to the benefit of the whole EU. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to invite the audience if they have any questions or comments. The ambassador. Yes.
Thank you. Akio Miyajima, Japanese ambassador here. Thank you very much for the organizer to have this very timely event. Thank you very much for all the inputs. Japan is have been paying close attention to the development of the 3Cs initiatives, and also has been stepping up the engagement. And then to regard that the foreign minister issued a statement, and then looking forward to the Bucharest summit. And having said that, because of the Ukrainian war, that somehow everybody is just overwhelmed by that. And then, so I would like to ask one more time that to elaborate, not despite of Ukrainian crisis, but because of the Ukrainian crisis, that the 3Cs initiatives and also maybe upcoming Bucharest summit is important. I would like to have a little bit more elaboration on that. Second question is that the Japanese business community is paying closer attention to the growing potential in the 3SI regions. But in terms of the participation to the business forum in Bucharest, for me, I do need the kind of good reason for them to go there, or that in general that they are paying more close attention to it. But then they need some kind of reason to be there. So or maybe if not now, that I'm really looking forward to have more kind of the good maybe communication, informations to engaging the Japanese business communities to participate in the Bucharest Business Forum. Thank you very much.
For the first question, Ambassador, I will have only one word answer: resilience. So definitely this, I guess, is exactly the point where, in order to be able to help in the future with Ukraine, we need to be able to do so. It's not that I'm saying that we are not now, but by increasing this north-south resilience in all areas and mobility, we increase our resilience and our capacity to deliver upon our commitments to the eastern neighborhood, Ukraine particularly. To the second question, you are right. And here we have been quite honest in recognizing that in Bucharest. The concept of the forum, business forum, is still in the making. As I mentioned, we have a rotational in the government. We have a pre-concept on that, but it has not been finalized because we expect a change in the government. And definitely that would be 3 ministers to be in the lead for that, so we really have to wait. But this does not mean that we do not want to increase the interest, and we welcome the growing interest from the Japanese companies. I have good feedbacks from those companies that are present in Romania and in Bucharest. We will be looking very much forward to see that the concept and the proposal will be convincing enough for the Japanese business to come and to be present in the forum. You're right, we need to improve the communication. I said it before, and we work on that.
Thank you. Another question from the audience? The gentleman in the back, the second one. Please present yourself and institution and say to him there is a question. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I'm Tina Hlediani from Brussels-based think tank SEPS, and I just want to get more insights from the very insightful panel. Particularly, I was wondering because after the Riga summit declaration, it was put very clearly that this is an intra-EU bloc, because Ukraine was very much willing to become the member, as Zelensky has addressed during the video conference. So, and you've mentioned now that the bloc, the initiative, would be open for the Western Balkans, Georgia and Moldova. So I was wondering to what extent are all the 12 member countries of the initiative on the same page? Is it a common understanding that doors will remain open for partnership for Georgia, Moldova and the Western Balkans? And if so, when should we expect that? Should we expect already some signs or steps taken at the upcoming Bucharest summit in September? Would you expect these countries to take more proactive role, or would you be more proactive engaging them in actual terms? And the other one, just to again have more concrete insights from you, I'm just seizing the opportunity. You've mentioned the priority will be attracting the investments from the EU, from the members, but also outside of the EU. Later on, the panel has mentioned Japan, South Korea. Any other countries you had in mind outside of the EU, and who will hold the negotiating powers to bring the investments from abroad? Will it be Poland? Should we expect, again, setting up secretariat, as I've heard, or how it will be set up in practice? Thank you.
Okay, let me try. I think the situation is developing so fast. And when we started with the first summits, I believe we never anticipated that Ukraine one day might become a member of the European Union. Now, I think there is understanding in Brussels and European capitals. Yes, it might take maybe much more time than we expect now, but there is a clear European perspective for the Republic of Moldova, for Ukraine, for the countries of Western Balkans. From my point of view, it makes absolutely logical if we know that these countries, when they are going to become members, and specifically, you know, we are living in the region where, yes, we have physical borders, but as Paweł mentioned here, we speak here about gas pipelines, about electricity. Ukraine has, if I'm correct now, 4 EU neighbors, actually, Romania, Hungary, Slovakia, Poland, so 4. So this is a natural part of the future of the European Union. And I believe here about 3 Cs initiative, it's also a changing concept. So it's, yes, it used to be, as you said, but I think, and when we look also to the summit of Romania, and given the historical links between Romania and the Republic of Moldova, I'm quite sure that President Maia Sandu will be invited to this event. We fully support it, because from our point of view, it's absolutely natural. How we discussed it among 12 member states, I believe it's the same about the Secretariat. We might hold different opinions. So I was expressing my own opinion, but I really believe, given the future of the European Union, I think this shouldn't be a closed format, and we shouldn't be just confined to, let's say, those 12 member states.
On the second question of attracting investments, it's very simple. I mean, we had a vehicle for the investments, and we have to leave that discussion at the, those who know how to do business in that, those competent persons. So most probably the consortium that built together the first fund will take it over. It's not most probably, I'll be very honest. They will take it over, the discussions for the next type of, opening of the investments. True is that if we want to attract the investments from other areas, be it from Europe or outside, the investors will need to have clear picture about the terms of reference and what is to be done by those investments that are done. This discussion will be ongoing. I cannot disclose because I am not a part of it. We decided at the political level to give it at the level of the experts to deal with that. And B, because the discussions are ongoing. Okay, so definitely what I can say is that it will be a platform with very top-notch experts that are being involved. Mainly are those participating from the developing banks that participating initially to the establishment of the first fund, and they will take it over and to discuss there. Definitely, that should be a kind of a reassurance of the investors that the commercial character of this fund is being actually preserved, and that the lessons learned from the first instrument, from the first vehicle, are being assimilated and reflected in the terms of reference of the next vehicle. So I have to be very, precise on it, that it's not a kind of a waste of time or, forum talking. It's actually a very concrete activity which has a lot of financial engineering aspects, legal aspects, international law, and all of them to be done in compliance with the EU, rules and regulations. So it's quite complicated, but it's going on already.
Just if I may add to this issue of attracting investments, actually referring to your question as well as the question of the ambassador of Japan. Of course, we have a fund. This is very important. Maybe also the idea to create a second fund. But at the same time, what we see is also the interest at the side of the potential investors to see actual projects that they can invest. The idea of the fund is that you just bring money to the fund, to this investment advisor, which is the Amber Infrastructure, the company, and they decide in which projects to invest. And what we see, at least in our conversations with the Japanese side, for them would be more interesting to see concrete projects, because they can bring their investors to show them, okay, this is an interesting project, and you can invest in it. In case of funds, you can need to bring money and trust that the advisor will do the job, right? Thank you.
Thank you. And the final question, gentleman in the back. Yes.
Konrad Popławski, Center for Eastern Studies here in Warsaw. I have an impression that the very interesting message from the first panel, it was that first economic power of Central Europe, which we are gaining, is not transforming too much into political power inside the EU. And second was maybe the solution of it could be to launch some sectoral initiatives. And if I think about some economic initiatives proposed by the region here in the EU, it's very difficult to find one. And we rather review the initiatives prepared by Germany or France or some other Western states, which is also sometimes good, but maybe we have something more to offer. And my question would be, in the face of ongoing very substantive change of the European Union, we are in the middle of coining the industrial policy of the European Union after the US launched Inflation Reduction Act. We have some talks how to subsidize and if to subsidize, if to make looser rules for single market as it is proposed by France or Germany. So should we work more in the framework of 3Cs initiative on sectoral issues? Thank you.
I guess what we have to do at this stage is actually to capitalize on these three sectors that we have, which is transport, energy, and digitalization. And I can reassure you that when it comes to these three sector areas, what we have to propose at the EU level is already on the table, or it can be enhanced, definitely. As Paweł put it, we have the tools, the initiative, and the human intelligence to put it on the agenda. This is already ongoing. When it comes to the other sectoral areas, in terms of industrial policy or single market evolution, maybe here we have to be a little bit realistic upon what is the level of development of the initiative itself. Let's not forget that we all have this kind of dialogue in Brussels framework in different areas and instances, and this is not being isolated one of another. But my appeal will be to be realistic on what we can do. Definitely, it's our interest to have a cohesion or a coherent policy or sectoral policy at the European Union level, whatever the policy is there. Where I disagree with you a little bit, not too much, is that this initiative is not necessarily a reactive one on what France or Germany propose at the European Union. What I said and what we try to do, it's actually to come with the added value of North-South axis in trying to use this potential, as I said, to mitigate exactly the differences in development. And if we manage to do that, I guess it's the best contribution that we can bring at the coherence of the sectoral policies at the European Union level. Secondly, in terms of impact of that, it's an excellent exercise for ourselves at the initiative level, maybe to improve the cohesion at the EU level, and maybe what I mentioned, the idea to act as a Team Europe initiative in terms of connectivity projects with the neighboring countries would be an additional added value in terms of how we can implement this European cohesion or projects that we put forward. So I guess we all have to be a little bit open-minded and to think a little bit outside the box, and not to remain the prisoners of thinking who is better or who is worse or who follows who. It's a platform, it's an open book that we put together in Brussels, and we do not shy away of it. Actually, we are also permeable to the positive ideas that are coming from there in implementation of our own objectives, because we actually want to build synergies in enhancing the better speed of this local development that mitigates the gap. And I'm standing to be corrected by my colleagues in the panel.
Thank you very much for your intervention. As we are approaching toward the end of the panel, I'm the last one standing before the coffee break. I would just like to invite you for, let's say, one final word for our audience. What should they have in mind thinking about Bucharest or the 3SI? One key word that, in your opinion, would define the initiative and things to expect before the end of the panel.
One key word, I think now, in the context of the war, is perhaps two: security and resilience.
Thank you for resilience word and security. Thank you very much. I just want to repeat what I said somehow in the beginning in my intervention. Together we are stronger.
One word I would say: continuation. Continue what we have achieved already.
Well, it's difficult to add anything. I agree with all with what all previous speakers said. So resilience, security, continuity, unity, yeah, everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and hope to heaven. Yes. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a nice afternoon. And once more, it was a pleasure listening to you. Thank you.